As Trish said, my position is copyright and scholarly communications librarian. And in that role, I provide assistance to faculty with things like navigating copyright restrictions and making fair use determinations, exploring the various open access options to increase the reach and impact of your scholarship, and finding and using open educational resources. I was going to ask, normally I ask how many people in the audience have experience with OER, but I'm only seeing Trish in my window here, so I think I won't use that. But I'm always curious because as time goes on, more and more faculty become aware of OER. So I'm always curious how many more of our new faculty arrive with some prior experience in this area. Okay, so let's see. So I apologize for the size of this chart. I'm leery of switching to slideshow mode because I've got two monitors and I've had issues with that. So I'll try to walk through this very quickly. This is a chart from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now we've all heard about the rising costs and affordability challenges for many students in higher education. This chart breaks down these challenges over the period from 2006 to 2016. The dashed line at the bottom shows the change in the consumer price index overall during that 10-year period, showing that it rose 21% over that 10-year period. The pink line in the middle, about 3 lines above, is housing costs for students, excluding board. These rose 51% over the same time period. The blue line, that's second from the top, is college tuition and fees, which rose 63%. And then the gold line at the very top is textbook costs, which rose 88% over this 10-year period. So as an overall share of higher ed costs, textbooks might not account for the same dollar amounts as tuition and housing, but they're not insignificant, and they rose more than 4 times the rate of the overall consumer price index from 2006 to 2016. Studies and surveys have also shown that students often don't buy an assigned textbook when they can't afford it, and they try to muddle through the course and pass without it. Or they might simply take another course instead, maybe in the case of a non-required course, something that doesn't truly align with their interests and educational goals, which is a shame. So making college more equitable and affordable is an important reason to consider using OER, but it's not the only one, since studies have also shown that student outcomes in courses using OER are just as good and often better than they are in courses using commercial textbooks. To help faculty explore OER further, the library has created this guide, which you'll find at towson.libguides.com/OER. And I'm going to provide this slide deck to Trish to share with you all. It will have the link in it. You can also find this guide from the library's website by going to our research guides and then finding it under topics there. Let's see, I'm going to go over to see if I can toggle over to the guide. This is the live guide here. Much of the info that I'm going to go over today is provided here, so that allows me to cut out some of this as well in the interest of time. I'd especially recommend the short video from Iowa State University Library on the first page of the OER guide. It's about a 4-minute video. It's a really good introduction to OER. So I'm the library's primary contact for OER, but I want you to all know that your liaison librarian can also help. Every department or program on campus has an assigned liaison librarian. And if you don't already know who yours is, you can reach out to me, or you can check the list that's provided on the library, on the for faculty page of the library website. So as the subject matter experts, you of course will still need to review any OER that you want to consider using to make sure the info is accurate, timely, and relevant to your course learning outcomes, the same way that you review traditional textbooks for course adoption. But the librarians can help you navigate the different OER repositories, and there are several, and perhaps refine your search strategy to find the most relevant materials. I'll come back to this guide later, but for now I want to cover some basic info about OER, so I'll go back to my PowerPoint. So this definition from the Hewlett Foundation of OERs, and the Hewlett Foundation has been a major supporter of OER efforts. It has 2 important aspects. First, OER are materials, are teaching, learning, and research resources that reside in the public domain and are therefore free of copyright restrictions, or they've been released under an intellectual property license that permits their free use and repurposing by others. And the second part is to emphasize that OER are not just open textbooks. That's usually the first thing people hear about are open textbooks, but OER can also include many other types of content like syllabi, workbooks, grading rubrics, recorded lectures, and lab demos. It just goes on and on. David Wiley is an early OER advocate, and he's defined what he calls the 5R activities or 5R permissions of OER. And I've listed those here on this slide. These are what really make OER different from other types of educational content. Content which may be free to access, but which isn't free to reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute and retain. So while OER are great from a textbook affordability perspective, thanks to the 5R permissions, they also have the potential to boost student engagement and transform your pedagogy by allowing you and your students to interact with learning materials in new and innovative ways. So when you open educational content up and free it from the default restrictions of copyright, students and instructors can engage with it in new ways. David Wiley has also written about what he calls the disposable assignment, which students hate doing and faculty often hate grading. Instead, he suggests creating non-disposable assignments that make students themselves not just knowledge consumers, but also knowledge creators. There's a great write-up on open pedagogy by Robin DeRosa and Rajiv Jangiani on the Open Pedagogy Notebook, along with some examples of non-disposable or open assignments. And I've provided the link on this slide here. I wanted to point out very quickly that Direct Access is a textbook affordability initiative offered through the Towson University U Store, but it's not OER. Direct Access is facilitated by a company called Redshelf, which is really a delivery platform for materials created by commercial textbook publishers like Cengage and University Science Books and others. When students are enrolled in a course using Direct Access, they receive an email 2 weeks before the course begins, providing access to course materials through Blackboard. Course materials might include not just a textbook, but also video and audio presentations, quizzes, and homework assignments. The access is free for 2 weeks prior to the start date of the course, and then up to the add drop deadline. And then a charge is automatically billed to the student's university account. There is an opt-out provision provided, but whether students can truly opt out and still pass the course depends on which materials the instructor has chosen to use and how much of the grade relies on access to those materials. I'm going to flip over to my browser again. Are you all seeing the U-Store page here? It says featured books at the top.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. This is the towson.redshelf.com, and it's the homepage for the Direct Access program. I'll click on one of these titles to give you an example. So discrete mathematics with applications. You'll see there are different price options here on the right. 120-day digital rental is $37.57. 180-day rental is $42.99, and then lifetime access for $104.49. This does represent a big cost savings because this particular book lists for $300 new in hardcover print. And on Amazon, you can get it for about $240 at the moment. But I want to point out, you see in the middle of the page here, there are these printing and copy paste limits. The Redshelf terms of use say that you can view content for personal educational use only, and that you may be able to print and or view content offline, but it varies by title or publisher. So this is copyrighted content and it's not openly licensed, so you don't have those 5R permissions that you get from true OER. Okay, I also wanted to mention library licensed content. This includes things like ebooks, e-journals, image databases, streaming audio and video. Unlike Direct Access, these are free for students and other library patrons to access, although technically the subscription costs are covered at least in part by students' tuition and fees. We do strongly encourage faculty to use these materials to supplement or even replace a commercial textbook whenever possible. And librarians can even help you find and or acquire materials that you'd like to use as assigned course material. Now it's always good to reach out to your liaison librarian before doing this because we have some content that's available online, but it's not available indefinitely. Titles come and go. So it's best if you're planning to use something and you want to depend upon it being available to check with your liaison before you get to that point. But anyway, just like with Direct Access, this library licensed content doesn't give you the 5R permissions. Ebooks have print limits, limited downloads, sometimes a limit on the number of users who can access the ebook simultaneously. And some of these materials can't be indefinitely retained and they can't be revised, remixed, and redistributed. I didn't include a slide for it, but there are other types of free educational content that aren't subscribed to or licensed by the library and which aren't OER. Things like YouTube and Khan Academy videos, TED Talks, courses on the edX platform. Again, these can be great to use in your course, but they don't include the 5R permissions, so they don't enable truly open pedagogy. So the open licenses that make OER possible, most typically are Creative Commons licenses. We have more information on the library guide to OER about Creative Commons licenses, and I know many of you are probably already familiar with them. The most permissive type of open license is the CC BY or attribution license. This says others may reuse, redistribute, remix, repurpose the content as long as they give credit to the creator in a form that the creator has requested. And that's the only condition on it. And then you can add different conditions and they get more and more restrictive as you go down. But again, for time's sake, I will go through to the next slide here. Now, I don't know, Trish may have already mentioned this in today's session, but in early 2020, TU won an institutional grant from the Maryland Open Source Textbook Program to support further use of OER on our campus. The grant initiative is based in Facet. We're using the most funds to offer grants to individual faculty members, and there are two types of grants, adapt grants at $1,500 each. These require a commitment from the faculty member to integrate at least partially OER into one or more courses in fall 2021, and exploratory grants at $500 each, which are intended to support faculty in finding OER and determining whether they're a good fit for a particular class. Those who get an exploratory grant can also apply later for an adapt grant if they find OER and need further support adopting or adapting it for their course. Faculty who get either type of grant also receive guidance and mentoring from the TU OER community of practice, which includes the institutional grant team, as well as other faculty members who have received grants or used OER in their teaching in the past. The RFP for the latest round of grants went out via an email from the Provost's office and an announcement in TU Today at the end of September. The deadline for applications is today, but if you're interested in applying, I guess let Trish know. I think Trish said it might.
Yeah, we're going to grant an extension for only for new full-time faculty for 1 week. If you want to take a look at this and write up, the application process itself is pretty easy. And you can always email me and ask me for more information and for support, but we've decided to push the deadline just for you, just for this group.
Great, thanks. So I wanted to conclude by at least showing you a few of these OER repositories that we link to from the OER guide. So let me go back over to my guide. Close this one. Here's my guide. So you'll see on the left here where these navigation options. If you go under where to find OER, there are subpages, but the first page is general and multidisciplinary OER. And then underneath that, you'll see that we have subpages for each of the colleges. So for instance, I'll show you the health professions OER page. So on this one, we have different options for different departments within health professions. So what these links do is they will take you to the OER Commons, which is one of the repositories, and run a search for you limited to that subject that's indicated here on the biology, genetics, nutrition, etc. And then another approach we've taken on the guide is under humanities, liberal arts. We have headers for the different departments here. I'm going to go to cultural geography and run a search in the OER Commons via the link we provided. So here's my results from the OER Commons. I have 15 results, and these are all with pre-selected filters with subject, cultural geography, language, English, different license types, education level, target audience, etc. And then if you look over here on the left, you'll see, among other options, material type is one way to limit things. So you can see all the different types of OER. So OER Commons is a huge repository, and it contains a lot of supplemental resources in addition to textbooks. So you can limit it by material type there. Let's see. And then I wanted to point out also that this particular repository, the OER Commons, actually consists of a network of hubs, one of which was created by the Maryland Open Source Textbook Initiative, who also funded our institutional grant. And the Most Commons, the Maryland hub for OER Commons, is at most.oercommons.org, and I have that open here. Most Commons is meant as a way for teachers in higher ed across the state to share OER they've discovered, used, or created. If you browse their collections, and I'll do that here, discover collections, you can get some idea of what institutions have contributed to Most Commons so far. You'll see a lot of community colleges, since community colleges have been at the forefront of the OER movement for years now, and the higher ed affordability movement generally. So we've got different community colleges here. And then also if I go to discover resources, you can browse resources in the Most Commons by subject area and material types. And you can also, of course, do keyword searches. And then just as the larger OER Commons repository is made up of network hubs like the Most Commons is itself made up of institutional hubs, of institutions within the state of Maryland. So if I go to hubs here, see all hubs, you'll see all the hubs that exist so far. So in addition to the community colleges, Frostburg and UMGC have created an institutional hub on the Most Commons. Towson also has one, although it hasn't been made public yet, and I'll show you. I'm logged in, so it's showing me as the site administrator. So this is the basic page. Let me click on this. This is the basic homepage for the Towson Hub. And you'll see I've created these groups down here based on faculty who have gotten OER grants, who have expressed interest in OER, but I can add more very easily. I'm looking for any faculty members who would be interested in participating in our hub. This just requires adding links to any OER that you found that are relevant to courses that you teach or to teaching in your discipline generally. I really don't want to make the hub public until you've got at least some instructor supplied OER uploaded. So please contact me directly if you'd like to help with this effort. I'd really appreciate it. And then I've got, let's see, 2 minutes to go here. Let me show you. I've got a few other resources I'm going to show you, but again, these are all on the LibGuide. Let me go to, let's see. The Open Textbook Library is a good one. And you'll find this in a general multidisciplinary OER. So
Rick, when you go to another screen, we're not able to see that. We're only seeing the PowerPoint itself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was toggling over to my browser. Oh, that's too bad. Well, let me just tell you that the Open Textbook Library, it's on our guide, and it contains open textbooks only, not those ancillary materials like you'll find in the OER Commons or the Most Commons. But one of the things that's great about it is they include reviews by other instructors who've used the open textbooks. And it includes not just the review, but also the reviewer's name and their institutional affiliation. So if you want to see who's used it and whether they found it useful, that's a really great resource. A couple others are OpenStax, which is another open textbook site. And then we have 2 sites on the guide. One's called, let me go back to so I'm seeing my presentation. Yeah, so one of those is Oasis. This is actually a meta search tool that searches multiple OER repositories simultaneously. It's put out by the SUNY system. And it's a very easy system to use, very easy tool to use. The other meta search tool that we have on the guide is the Mason OER Meta Finder, or MOM, from George Mason University. That one's a little more complicated to use. So I would suggest starting off with Oasis. Again, if you have any questions about where to start, or if you run into any problems using any of these repositories, please let me know. I'll be happy to speak with you further. And thanks for your time and attention.
Thank you, Rick, very much. And Rick's email is rkdavis@towson.edu. So if you want to get in touch with him and talk with him a little bit more about this, feel free. You could also write to facet@towson.edu about any of these issues, including OER that we've talked about today. So I'm sorry that we do not have time for question and answer with Rick. We are going to go ahead and close for the day. Maggie, would you like to say anything to our group before we close?
Just like to thank you again for attending, and have a really good weekend, and look forward to seeing you sometime, hopefully in the spring, face to face, to officially welcome you physically to the Towson University community.